Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Jane McGuinness, a registered clinical counselor, author, and mother of three, whose work focuses on healing our relationship with food, body, and self. After overcoming emotional eating and sustaining over 100 pounds of weight loss for more than a decade, Jane now helps others move beyond diet culture and towards lasting internal healing. Jane, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Joy.
All right, so I want us to start from the beginning, right? The real story behind weight loss. So you've maintained a 100 plus lb weight loss for over
Mhm.
a decade, which is rare actually. So what did you do differently?
Sure, absolutely. You know, for myself, the real game-changing moment was realizing that I needed to heal internally before I could heal externally. When I was younger, I tried all of the silly crash diets and, every different diet out there, no carbs, all carbs, no sugar, all of these crazy things, no meat, all meat. And then I realized that none of it was addressing the root causes that led to the disordered eating in the first place. And that was one of the reasons I decided to write this book, because in here I detailed, there's some small t trauma from my childhood, as there often is in our childhood. Sometimes for some people, of course, it's big T trauma. But for myself, I realized as a teenager, I very quickly began to equate food with love, and it was comfort and it was an escape. If when I was anxious, I didn't recognize at the time was struggling with an anxiety disorder that worsened, and then in my 20s, um, yeah, became at times, somewhat debilitating. And so it was really my 30s. I was 30 years old when my third child was born. I'd gained weight during each pregnancy, and when I combined that with the emotional comfort eating,
Mm.
I realized, okay, this is my I was really feeling very unwell, lacking energy. I just knew that I needed to make a change for myself and my children, and that's when it started. And I decided, okay, I need to heal permanently. I need to do this properly. And I discovered the work of Janine Roth, and her book Breaking Free from Emotional Eating, Women, Food, and God was another one that was really instrumental in helping me to figure out what was really going on. It was never about the food. I wasn't hungry. It wasn't how food I hungered for, which is why the book is always hungry, because I am hungry, but it was never for food.
Mm. Mm. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. So basically, it's not about trying to lose weight, right? It's about addressing the root cause of why you gained weight in the first place.
Mm. Well,
Mm.
exactly. And it was that very disordered relationship that I had with food, when food became comfort, when I was anxious. Often we eat when there is no physical hunger. There's no real awareness for a lot of us as to whether or not we're full, we're hungry, we're happy, we're sad, we're tired. We don't really know what's going on, because a lot of us are lacking that interoceptive awareness, which is essentially knowing what we're feeling in the body. And I certainly was lacking that until I learned. And as I began to learn, began to move my body, I found joy in movement and just found exercise I loved. Well, the weight did start to come off. I mean, it certainly it took time, and I believe because I did it gradually and sustainably, eating real food, it was able to come off in a manner that was healthy. It allowed my body time to just, adjust to those new set points, so I could keep the weight off. So I really did have to heal from within, and I believe I've seen that in my work with clients and others in my life. I think if we don't do the internal work, then any diet, short-term diet's just a quick fix. It's a band-aid, and that's why the weight usually goes back on, because people aren't figuring out what's really at play here when they're in the kitchen, stuck in the fridge or pantry, rummaging for food because we're just completely dysregulated and upset.
All right. Okay. So yeah, thank you for that one, actually.
Of
And
course. And I,
all right. It brings me to, emotional eating, because I feel like that's the case for most people. So I
yeah,
need you to explain to us, right? What is emotional eating really, and why do so many people struggle with it?
yeah, no, that's a great question.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm absolutely happy to share what I've learned. And I mean,
I'm excited.
that's part of the, well, what I figured out, and then looking back, of course, hindsight is 2020 because I went and studied psychology, became a counselor, and so understood more about the psychology behind it. And what I realized was that when we're dysregulated in the body, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in and we're in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. So
Mm.
often, if somebody's heading to the kitchen, they're anxious, maybe they had a fight with their partner, they're upset, maybe their child's screaming, maybe their boss was angry at them at work, whatever. Someone's upset, they go to the kitchen, they're looking for food. What happens is there's no awareness of the fact that we're triggered, we're dysregulated. So we're up here, the sympathetic nervous system's activated. We're just wanting to feel safe in the body, feeling calm, and we're feeling anything but. So what happens is we'll immediately go, rummaging. I mean, we've all done it. You stand there in the pantry or the fridge eating without any awareness of whether we're hungry, just not even often tasting the food, looking down and realizing not even no awareness of what we've eaten or how much we've eaten. What really we're needing calm, we're needing safety in the body, and we're needing to be able to get into that um, parasympathetic, space where we can engage the parasympathetic nervous system. We can begin to calm in the body. And there are so many ways we can do that. And I learned really through trial and error before I knew what I was doing. I'd started taking yoga with my children, which is an incredibly powerful way to come back into the body, which of course is where emotions live, which is where we hold all of this, the trauma, the stress, the anxiety. So by beginning yoga, I meditate every day now. I've also become very, very, well, I'd say reasonably skilled at grounding. And that's something I help clients with. And I certainly teach my children, so that, yeah, they now have these tools that I wish I had as a teenager. Oh, there's I rest.
I could see it. I was like, oh, that's huge.
Oh, I know. I think he's in with Puma. He doesn't stop eating. He should be on the cover. Like he's always hungry.
Okay, that's
It
true.
really is. But
Right.
forgive
Yeah.
me.
No,
So
it's fine.
yeah, the grounding exercises are really helpful too. I mean, really, that can be a very helpful way for someone who doesn't know where to start. Just noticing, even as I sit here, noticing my weight on the chair, pushing my feet into the floor. Then doing that diaphragmatic breathing. There are lots of free exercises people can find on YouTube and elsewhere. There's free apps where people can start to do this breathing, come back into the body, really just begin to start to feel safe in the body. And then at that point, then we can start to sit with the emotion, like notice when we're feeling something, start to notice when we're hungry or full. Like all of these things I found essential. I've certainly found that with clients. I couldn't have healed permanently and sustained the weight loss had I not figured this out. So that now when I'm upset, when I feel it and notice it, even on maybe a really stressful day, I'll go to the kitchen. I'll be able to stop myself and notice what's going on and realize, okay, like I need to deal with something here. Like something's not right. And then in that moment of pause, we give ourselves a chance to stop and choose differently. I can choose to go for a walk. I mean, exercise is a great way of regulating the nervous system. I can choose to just go and lay down on my yoga mat if I'm too overwhelmed to do anything else. Just, take 10 minutes and lie there. And that can sometimes be enough to just help me to come back to myself and recognize, okay, I'm not physically hungry. So going and snacking right now it's not going to solve the problem. I always joke, but it's true. If we're comfort eating, if we're already upset about a problem, we comfort eat, then we've got two problems because we've got a tummy ache, like I used to have from comfort eating, and the original problem is still there. Nothing's been fixed. It's just worsened. So a lot of us don't recognize. the triggers of the behavior and the fact that we have power. We can take back our power. We can learn these tools so we can choose differently and gradually, and we can make different choices and begin to just heal our relationship with food in our body.
All right, wow. So, it's about recognizing the patterns, right? Recognizing when you're actually hungry or when you feel some certain way and you need to sit with your emotions and address those
Mhm.
emotions. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you
you're
so much for that.
welcome.
All
You know,
right.
and I should also mention that, of course, self-compassion is key because it's not always easy. Sometimes it's
Mm,
incredibly tough, particularly for someone if they've spent a lifetime pushing their feelings down, as some of us do, because we don't want to feel them. They're too painful or uncomfortable. So, the thing with pushing away an emotion in the body, we know it's held in here physically and it just
mm,
comes back up. So, pushing it away, it's a short-term solution, but it'll come back stronger. And yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. So, I would say practicing self-compassion is key. And then also just recognizing, like, if it was painful at the time and we've pushed it away, it will be painful coming back up. By making space for it and allowing it, then we can
mm.
process it, we can work through it and we can ultimately heal.
Right. Okay. So yeah, thank you. And
Of
we've
course.
spoken about the positive side, right, of
Hmm.
healing, especially from emotional eating and also healing from inside out. So now I want us to talk about body image and society, right? Because
Mm,
you've experienced life in literally different body size. So what did that
yes.
teach you about how society treats people? Because I feel like this is not
Mm.
often addressed enough.
No, absolutely. And that was definitely another reason I had to write the book
Mm,
because it was actually shocking to me just how incredibly different I'm still treated in society. When I go out and, I've brushed my hair, I've put on some makeup and what was really, really sad was that I realized as a slim white woman, like, diet culture, body image, it's all also tied up in morality, racism. It was really disgusting and really sad to see, when I was a much larger white woman, I was treated rudely by a lot of people. I mean, sometimes they were slight, like microaggressions. Other times it was overt. Either way, I guarantee the person who's overweight or obese notices when somebody's rude to them, and they're served last, not first, because they're the person, in a much larger body. And so, and I mean, I'm certainly not just throwing men under the bus. I mean, sometimes women were worse. They could be really, really
mm,
quite rude and cruel and judgmental because I think, sadly, we, a lot of us are without realizing. And I don't, and people don't always mean to be unkind, but they can be very, very unkind, making slight rude comments about what you should or shouldn't eat or what you
mm,
should or shouldn't wear for your body size. And it was incredibly sad. And then I realized my life's so easy now when I leave the house dressed a certain way in a smaller body. And that's wrong. And it's also sad and it needs to be spoken about more. I mean, by virtue of the fact that I have this privilege now, it's wrong because the fact that I have this privilege means that other people are disadvantaged when they're in larger
mm,
bodies. And that was just shocking to me. It was shocking to me just how much easier my life is. And yeah, it doesn't sit well at all. So I wanted to
mm.
speak out and essentially just tell everybody, remind everybody just to be kind. It costs nothing. And I'm the
Okay.
same woman that I was 18 years ago when at the birth of my third child, when I was at my heaviest. I was feeling very unwell. I was tired. I was lacking energy. I was low in iron. I had three small children. I had a newborn and a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I was exhausted. I
Mm,
didn't have time to think about my hair and certainly didn't at the time wasn't exercising regularly. I was overwhelmed. I was comfort eating and I was in a much larger body. But is that any reason that somebody who should have been rude to me now and that same person now, 18 years
well,
later, is kind, really
mm,
kind? Yeah, it's
okay.
just,
Yeah, I just want to send a message to my listeners, right?
Mm.
You people should be kinder to people, right? Irrespective of the size. Honestly, this is to people out there because some people can't even take these comments, right? Those supposedly large people, most of them fall into depression because of how they are treated by people around them. So this should be addressed. And as by listener, guys, please let's be kinder. The world should be a kind place and we should radiate love and
Yeah.
kindness around us. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. All
Oh, I
right.
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's the simplest thing. I don't understand why it's so hard for people
Mm.
to reserve judgment and see the soul of a person, see the person within and not the shape. Like we just,
Um,
gosh, I mean, particularly here in the West, I mean, it's just the obsession with body image and the way we look and the association with, a value we place on somebody, this the morality piece is huge. The
mm,
assumption that you're essentially more worthy as a human when you're in a smaller body. It's just abhorrent. And it's just, yeah, it still exists. And I really feel at the moment with this pendulum swing back to ultra skinny with Ozempic, and now we're seeing celebrities like fading
mm,
away. It's
mm,
terrifying because our kids are all looking at it and the message
mm,
they're getting is, oh, I need to be in that body. I need to shrink my body further. It's then we were already told, we needed to be smaller. And it's just, yeah, it's just
mm,
terrifying. And it's toxic and people are still dying, from
mm.
from starvation because they're attempting to look like the latest celebrity that's going to blow over in the wind, like I can joke about it, but of course, as you and I both know, underneath it, this is really serious.
Mm, okay. Well, it's good that we, spoke about that actually.
Yeah.
It's okay. And yes, this brings me to, my podcast, right? It's for young adults that are seeking to, gain clarity with life.
Mm,
So I believe you have a message to my listeners, right? Let's say for someone struggling with their relationship with food and their
mm.
body, what would you want them to hear?
Oh, great question. The first
Mhm.
thing I would say is just remember to firstly extend that kindness to yourself, that self-compassion. Recognize that we're all in different bodies, we're all genetically predisposed to have different body shapes, body types. We all have different frames. We're not all meant to look the same. And I would say that if you do recognize you have an unhealthy relationship with your body and food, that there are ways to heal that are gentle and kind. We don't need to starve the body. If somebody recognizes that maybe they're in trapped in a binge restrict cycle where some people will starve themselves and then binge because they'll feel like they've tried so hard to be quote unquote good, and
Yeah.
and then they can't do it because they've just been trying for weeks, days or weeks to deny themselves, and then of course the body's screaming. There is another way, and it begins with just practicing interoceptive awareness. Like if there's emotional work to be done, if there's something that we're holding on to, we recognize as triggering this, then addressing that. I mean, there's a lot of great self-help books out there. There's a therapy, of course, but if that's not accessible for financial reasons, there's a lot of really, really useful information online too that's free and accessible. And again, like that was one of the reasons I wrote my book, and I wrote it in a very honest, raw way. I wanted to tell the real story of what happens when somebody's relationship with food is just a huge mess, the why, the how I got there and how I healed, to show people it's possible. It's possible to heal the body without Ozempic, without starving the body, without ridiculous interventions. Yeah, but I would definitely encourage listeners just to begin with self-compassion. That's number one, because we're so hard on ourselves. I think, and not just young women, but people of any gender. I think we look in the mirror and we're so critical because we see online these toxic images, on Instagram. It's all most of it's just Photoshop nonsense anyway. But we're sold this, yeah, this very, very toxic lie and this message that we all need to look like that. And truth is we don't need to look like that. And those people aren't any happier. They might pretend to be, but they wake up with the same problems we all do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All
they're
right.
not all
Yeah,
that.
so thank you so much, Jane. This was such a honest and deeply meaningful conversation. It's one that, people can relate to, but they rarely talk about openly. So I'm glad we get to talk about this. And yes, thank you. I've learned so much already. And I hope
Oh,
my
me
listeners
too.
would learn. All right.
Oh, thank you, Joy. No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to come on and share this message with your listeners. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. So yeah, you're welcome. And it brings me to the final segment. It's called the rapid fire segment. So yeah,
Mm.
are you
Oh,
ready?
yes, I love rapid fire.
Okay. So yeah, starting now. Healing looks like,
Love,
okay. Food is
a pleasure,
pleasure. Okay. Self-worth is
essential,
essential. Okay. Kindness means
love to
love.
everyone, for everyone, always
Oh,
love.
okay. And finally, your body is
My temple, it's our temple. Let's respect it. Let's respect the food. Let's respect our bodies and let's enjoy. Food is pleasure, and I believe good food should be enjoyed and respected and honored. And let's all just slow down and actually taste and enjoy what we're eating respectfully and respect our bodies. We need to change our relationships with food completely, a lot of us. I know I certainly did. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jane. This has been a pleasure. And where can listeners get to know more about you and what you do?
Oh, for sure. Thank you for asking, Joy. So they can go to janemcguinnesstheauthor.com. There's a link to socials, Instagram, Facebook. My book, Always Hungry, How I Lost the Weight and Found Myself, is available on Amazon. It's also on Audible. If people like ebooks, they can. I narrated it myself in a studio. So if they enjoy audiobooks, it's on Audible. Also the links through Amazon, the ebook. So janemcguinnesstheauthor.com. And also my Substack, All Things Moderation, where I share every week. So, and that's always free. So the Substack's completely free if anybody wants to check out my writing, see if they like it. And thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right. So yeah, I'm more of the audiobook, right? So I think I'll check out your audiobook actually.
Mm.
All right.
Oh, thank you. You know,
Okay.
some people have said that that's their preferred format because I narrated it. They enjoyed listening, really listening to the intonation and, yeah, my telling of the story. So I hope you like it.
All right. I'm sure I will actually. And yes, to my listeners, thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jane. Do have a wonderful
Oh,
day.
thank you. You too. So lovely to meet you.
Oh,